Microphone open. Heidi, everyone, and welcome aboard. Nice to have you with us, wherever you may be in God's green garden on this, the 8th of December. Yeah, that's it. The 8th of December, 17 days before Christmas. That's not what I wanted to be showing at the moment. Let me try something different. There we go. How are you guys? Hope everything's fine and you're doing well. I hope your trading's going well. I haven't got anything in the market at the moment, I don't think. We'll update that in just a tick. But before we do, let's set up today's pound versus the US dollar and see if we can find some money to put in the bank. That'd be good. Righto, those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. It's nice to have you on board. It is a share show, so everything that you have in your mind, get it off your mind and get it on the air. Why isn't that doing what it should be doing? That's kind of weird. Sorry, guys, I'm distracted by the control panel. Okay, so as I said, get your mind active, and anything that is on your mind, get it off your mind, get it on the air, share it with us. And that may be an idea, trade idea, maybe a chart that you want analysed by either Ash or myself. It might be just a chit chat to say hi. You're welcome to come on screen. You're welcome to have your microphone opened at any time. Just throw your hand up and let us know. Righto, again, those of you here for the first time, welcome. And what we're attempting to do here is trade the breakout of the Asia session using the pound versus the US dollar. And the way we approach this is we take the high of the range. That's got to move a little bit because the last candle, the current candle, has gone a little bit higher. So that's currently the high of the range, which is at 122.147. So let's call it 122.15. Thanks, Sam. All good. Cheers. And the low of the range is 121.77. So that is the current range. What we're attempting to do is trade the breakout of that range. Now, I need to see one more thing. Can't see the participants, which means if somebody's waiting to get into the room, I've got a problem. Let me fix that. There we go. Righto. Okay, so the high and the low, we're trying to get the breakout of the high or the low. Doesn't matter which. What we do is pick the direction based on where price is in relation to the midpoint at London Open. Now, the midpoint at this point is between 121.77 and 122.15. I think that was 15, wasn't it? Yep. So that is 38 pips, so 19 pips above our low, which gives us 121.96. So that's the midpoint. Now the rule is, or one of the rules, is if we are above that level when London opens, we look to trade short. And if we're below that level when London opens, we look to trade long. So the next part of that is if we're on that level or near that level, that is the midpoint, we don't do anything. Now, the midpoint, if we are to go short here, would be our entry, and the stop loss would be the high of the range. If we were to go long here, the midpoint would still be the entry, but the stop loss would be the low of our range. Because we're very close to that midpoint, I won't be doing anything unless price moves away from that area. So there'll be no trade at this point, as there wasn't yesterday. I think there was no trade for the same reason. If it shoots up here, then no problem. We'll take the trade. But at this very moment, the answer is no. How far away from the midpoint? Yes, good question. I haven't really determined that, and in terms of the number of pips, that's probably a very, very good question because I haven't determined which is the best. It may be the previous candle. Now that's what? 6 pips away from the entry. it'll probably do. Would I take that trade normally if I wasn't trading the breakout? Probably not, because look at the daily pivot. It's just repelled price 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Now, of course, some people would say that's it can't be sustained, and therefore it will eventually break. Yeah, that's probably true. But am I going to take that risk in a normal course of events? And the answer is probably no, I wouldn't. I'd much prefer to see it break and the weekly pivot break and then come back and be retested. So I'm not taking that position at the moment, not based on that, but I think 5, 6 pips away from the entry, probably a little bit too close. So I'm not going to take it. All good. If it goes, it goes. So be it. So let's leave that one alone for now and move on to greener pastures. Well, hopefully greener pastures. Now, I think I've got 3 orders in the market at the moment, maybe 4. I'll quickly go through them before Ash comes in. The first one is not Kiwi CAD, though I'm stalking this like a leopard on a rabbit. They eat rabbits, maybe on a deer or a doe or a buck or something. Looking for a short here at some stage to correct this incredible skyrocket that's just been going on and on and on into the second month. And we're into the 3rd month, maybe. I think it's 8 weeks now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the 9th week. So, yeah, well into the 2nd and maybe into the 3rd month. So it's got to pull back at some stage. That may not be a permanent thing, of course, but I would like to trade that retracement when it comes. So I'll keep my eyes on that very, very closely. What I do have in the market is the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar. Now, I think there was Canadian news overnight, where they did raise their interest rates by the anticipated 0.5%, 0.5 of 1%. Nothing seems to have happened as a result of that. We were produced with pretty much a doji day yesterday. I'd like to see this pull back as well, but my entry is not on a daily chart, it's on a weekly chart, and price is running further and further away from there. So I think in reality, that's not going to occur. Why am I leaving the order in the market? Well, because it's a weekly chart, we haven't had a close above that high yet. So whilst ever that's the case, I'll leave it in the market. But if I was committed to this going short, which I suppose is my bias, then I'll probably look to find another entry up here somewhere off another trade line. So I'll probably be looking for a false break of resistance here somewhere at some stage. It's not there at the moment, that's for sure. So we'll leave that one for now, but the weekly is still in the market. Placed a couple of orders today. Euro yen was one. Now, euro yen, not dissimilar in appearance to dollar CAD actually, but we do have here what I consider to be fruit for the sideboard. And it is a false break, followed by a higher false break, followed by a higher false break. When I see that, I'm expecting that structure to break to the downside. So that structure is probably there. So I'm expecting price to come through that level and maybe attack the next one. Whether it's there or whether it's there is another story. That's why I'm keen to trade this short, and it did pop up on the daily chart today as a rejection of the monthly pivot. That's yesterday's bar, of course. Very, very close to the resistance level. If you had a look at that on the weekly chart, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? There's a channel. There's a descending channel through here. That's very, very difficult to ignore. If you haven't spotted that, then let me point it out to you. So the top line is pretty much the same. The bottom line can come down to here. And look at that, fairly uniform. So every time we've hit the top, we've gone to the bottom, top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom, bottom to top, and that's the question mark. Have we hit the top yet? Good question. I can't answer it as a fortune teller, but the monthly pivot rejection gives me the indication that if we don't go to here, then we're probably going to go down to here, at least at the weekly pivot, which is where I've got some profit taking. And then ultimately, probably down to this level here somewhere. So that's why I'm trading the short. If you wanted to follow it, the entry is at 143.15. The stop loss is 150 pips above that. At whatever that is, 144.65. Sorry, that's not true. Yes, it is 144.65. And first take profit, I'm taking at half the risk, which is 75 pips, which brings us in just about the weekly pivot area. So happy to do that. That all works. At that point, I'm going to close 75% of the trade. And the reason for that is I'm not sure if we've hit the resistance confluence, which is that red line, which is pretty much the stop loss. And that may happen before this does go short. So I'm going to get 75% off here. If we get a second entry, happy days, we'll add to that. That's euro yen. I'm still holding out for gold. Gold, again, is a daily trade, not dissimilar in many ways to that false break scenario I was talking about on Kiwi CAD, dollar CAD, sorry. So what we have here is a break of resistance. I'll go to the weekly chart, show it a bit clearer. There is a resistance level that price has failed to break. It's been former support resistance, a bit murky through this level here. But that recency tends to suggest to me, and with this big bull move, very fast bull move, I'm expecting that will be a temporary situation, and at the very least will come down to here, the monthly pivot, and maybe even produce a left shoulder, head, right shoulder combo, which would then prompt me to look for a long position at that level. Whether it's the turnaround time or not for gold, I don't know. And we're at a crucial level. It's the 1800 level, right? So it's a round number. The prediction is wild. If you say it's breaking long or you say it's going short, I think it's a toss of the coin at the moment. But I'm still of the opinion that this double top sitting here on the monthly chart is ruling. And for that reason, I'm favouring shorts until that is no longer the case. So this could go way up to here and put in a lower high, and I'd still be looking for sells. So until those highs are taken out, or that double top's taken out, I'm still looking to sell gold. So if you wanted to follow that one, $1,764 is the entry point. The stop loss is $25 above there at $1,789. And I'm taking my first profit at $1,745. I'll only close a third of that position at that point because we've still got room to go down to the monthly pivot and maybe even this level here. So that's gold. There, I think, is one other. But for the Aussie versus the dollar. So Aussie versus the dollar, purely one of my technical setups, which is, again, a potential false break of that resistance, not only that trade line, but the horizontal level as well. You can throw in the weekly pivot in there as well if you want. Now, this is a little bit interesting because I know that China, who have been threatening to do this, if threatening is the right word, and that is ease their policy on COVID. That has apparently happened, according to the news I was listening to. And if that's the case, we'll probably see a little bit more activity between China and Australia in terms of exports for Australia, imports for China, and that won't do the Aussie dollar any harm at all. Against that, GDP figures out on the Aussie today, I think it was today, suggested that there's a further slowing of the economy, and that won't help the dollar, one wouldn't have thought. So, yeah, 50-50 call in terms of the fundamentals, in my opinion. Ash will probably fill me in a little bit better on that, but I can still see the potential for that to be a false break and the downtrend to continue. We also have, oops, my mouse was caught on the mouse pad. We also have that situation where we're not only potentially bouncing off the horizontal level, but there is a bit of a confluence there. And I do see downside here on Aussie versus the dollar from a technical perspective. So if you want to follow this one, the entry is at 0.66650. And the stop loss is 80 pips above that. My maths is running out, but I'll try. 0.6745 will be the stop loss, and the first take profit will be at 0.6625, at which point I'll remove 75%. Reason for that is because it's the monthly pivot and it's likely to propel price back to here, and then I'll look for another short. Well, I think that's pretty much me wrapped up in terms of what trades are in the market. I do have some analysis on another few pairs that I'll get to, but I want to bring Ash in. Say g'day, buddy.
Hi, mate. Everything all right?
Oh, Thursday. That means
why are you in a something that looks very cold? Is it cold there?
It's 13 degrees, which is it's summer here, right? And 13 degrees in Tasmania today. So yes, it's cool.
Oh, it is cool. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely freezing here.
What is it there?
Probably closer to 5 or 6, maybe. I haven't checked today actually, but it's cold. It is cold.
Well, it's winter, mate. It's supposed to be cold.
Well, we're going to get snow apparently as well. I'm going to tell you exactly what today's temperature is. And -2. Can't be -2.
There is a difference.
Yeah.
No wonder you're cold. You've got the central heating on.
I am cold, mate. I'm cold. Yeah, do you know what? I was just looking through the markets today and just looking at what a tough week it's been for trend traders. Just no movement really whatsoever. I'll show you. I'll show you what we got here, but and a strange old open really. There's been sort of quite a few strange things going on. I've just taken a long on silver actually, and actually that China news might well help us out a little bit, but we'll see. But
Cool. Don't let us close the show without looking at next week. My goodness, next Thursday's an absolute ball terror.
Well, I think this is the thing. It's kind of understanding, what's driving this market, and it might well be the anticipation of next week rather than what's going on today, rather than what's going on this week, because it's just been a strange week, and I'll show you sort of like what I was looking at because it's been odd. I mean, we are seeing the so silver. I've taken a long on this one. It's really off this daily bar. I mean, it is a wave rider trade actually. After taking it, I don't trade the wave rider, but after taking it, I noticed that it was a wave rider trade. So wave rider traders may well be trying to get in at the top of this bar. I've gotten a little bit earlier than that, but it is at a resistance point, so it might ease back a little bit first. But I'm still looking to see whether we can test these highs one more time. Just seems to be a little bit of negativity surrounding the dollar. And because of the recession concerns, as you said, GDP from Australia released. It was actually yesterday, and year on year, pretty good numbers. But on the quarter, there was a little bit of a dip back to 0.6 from 0.9. So not. I guess we've
really got to take into consideration that year on year is the height of COVID versus now.
Yes, very true, mate. Very true.
It's not a disgraceful number. It's below par, but it's not a disgraceful number, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, but looking sort of through, let me just show you the. So the FTSE's having a little bit of a sink to the downside, and I wonder whether the FTSE might well. Whoops, I didn't want that. Which one was I on? I think I was on this one. So the FTSE was. FTSE may well see this monthly pivot, and there is some negativity kind of coming in. There's nothing really kind of like pushing forward. Some of the banking stocks are doing okay, but I'm not I'm not yet loving the absolute downside with the FTSE. I think that there's still a little bit of a chance of one more bounce before we start to really come down. But you can see that this is turning over, and you can see the same with the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq's basically back down to when Jerome Powell's speech was last week, when he decided to say that that there may well be a slowing of the situation with interest rate rises, and we've basically reversed the whole move, but we are at a point of support down here with the Nasdaq. There's the pattern there, which we've now tested. This is a broadening pattern, which Gordon was talking about on the retreat. So we might well see something. Anybody that remembers what Gordon was saying about the broadening pattern, we might well see some sort of burst to the upside to try and take some of these guys out of the situation here. This is where I'd want the Nasdaq as a short. I don't think this is the right place to go short. There's the trend line coming up there. So
that's funny. I talk about broadening patterns all the time.
Oh, it's you as well. You as well. So yeah, well,
I've been talking about broadening patterns for years, mate.
Well, he was talking about a specific way to trade the broadening patterns, looking for the algos.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, which might be of interest.
Oh, that's interesting. It would be of interest to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So checking out where those stops are I guess are sitting. So there is probably something for people there. It's not something that I'm trading, but there is something potentially there, and it does look like we are at that point of some potential support here, which could see the Nasdaq, just have a little bit of a burst to the upside. Looks like a Nasdaq long FTSE short trade is potentially on at the minute as well. So there is a little hedge trade that I think could be of interest for people. But I just looking through the charts. So this is what I was looking at. This is the start of the week here. Now this is the Aussie. Let's have a look at this on the hourly. This is the start of the week here. So if we consider this as the point here, this is where we are. And actually, if you forget the peak and the trough and just go from where we opened to where we currently are, it's relatively stationary. We're down 53 from. Okay, maybe that one. That one's moved a little bit, but really looking across the board. Actually, the CAD is the one currency which seems to have moved this week, and negatively, which I found quite surprising. We had an interest rate hike from Canada. We also had an interest rate hike from Australia, which was less than what Canada did, and yet the Aussie dollar has done relatively well against the CAD. But again, this is where it opened here. This is where we are. Not a great deal of movement. You go down the line. Actually, the Swissie's done all right as well this week, but again, the Swissie opens up here. Has it moved that much this week? We're looking at an hourly chart, so really we're in this kind of crunch area. We've got a bit of a crunch going on really with a lot of this. Look at the yen. This is the Aussie yen opening here, and this is where we currently sit. The euro's done pretty well as well. And it's done pretty well against the Aussie, but you look at it against some things like the Swissie, all over the place, not really kind of going anywhere. You look at it against the pound, really all over the place, not really going anywhere. Very, very difficult, when you sort of like look through the charts, very difficult to get any kind of grasp of trend this week. It's been up and down. Okay, there's been some short-term moves against a couple of currencies, but you really would have had to be pinpoint. And we know that the best environment is when everything's kind of moving, everything's starting to move around. But this kind of environment, when a few things are moving, it just suggests that that it's really micro. I think some of the numbers from Australia probably weren't particularly well received. I don't think they were awful, but they weren't that well received. You look at it against the pound as well. And the pound has had a pretty decent week against the Aussie. Not that far away, but it's had an all right week. But the initial burst and then
looks a bit toppy there now.
It is looking toppy, mate. And if you look at it on the dailies, look at that daily. These weekly bars. The first one was actually let's look at the weekly bars instead. Not really a great deal of movement there. Pound Swissie, not a great deal of movement there. The CAD's had a little bit of downside, and as I say, bit of a surprise. And as you say, mate, again,
I agree. Why? Oil's the only answer.
Well, I looked through the data, and the only thing that was really a genuine mover this week, when I was kind of looking through it, was the speech from Christine Lagarde. That was the main sort of thing that happened. Okay, the CAD's seen some downside. The CAD has had an interest rate hike, and considering it has an interest rate hike, I thought we'd see a lot more movement. But I think a lot of that move has been priced in. The Aussie also had a hike, and what tends to happen, and this is a strange sort of paradox, really. What tends to happen is when the interest rate raise is done, that particular currency tends to weaken. And I think it's because either the others will be playing catch up, so they'll be the next one's kind of coming, or there's an anticipation that we could be reaching the end. But now, currently, what's going on, and it's almost sort of like being like that.
And we knew it was coming anyway.
We knew it was coming, and it's sort of, now are they kind of reaching their peak, and the likes of the euro and the pound, as an example, are about to play catch up. So is something like the Aussie and the CAD kind of done with their hikes? Now again, this brings back into question the yen. I think we were talking about the dollar yen on Monday, and looking at the dollar yen, the dollar has had a little bit of a boost up against the yen, but there is some negativity sort of surrounding the dollar, as we've seen. With the charts with the dollar, you look at the euro dollar, and the euro dollar's had a really, really good run to the upside, which is probably a little bit overcooked. If you look at the economic figures from Europe, they're awful, really. It's a terrible region for economic activity, as is the UK. But we're seeing these kind of moves because of the potential kind of interest rate situation. But eventually, these moves are going to get reversed, regardless, in my opinion, of whether the Fed stop raising rates before everybody else, because the US economy is actually performing pretty well. ISM numbers last week were stellar. They were really, really good numbers, and because of that, it's seen the Nasdaq drop. It's seen the dollar stabilize a little bit, but just I don't think we're with trend. I think that's the key here. I think we're sort of like, we're not with a fundamental trend. I think the CAD strengthens. I think the Aussie could strengthen eventually. I think the pound comes down, and I think the euro comes down. The Swissy could be the outlier, and I think the dollar strengthens in the end as well. But we seem to be in a sort of strange move in the opposite direction. As things kind of equalize when it comes down to policy.
And I think that's the word as well, because if you look at that chart, and it's typical of what we've seen of these moves. Yeah. When you see a super aggressive move like that off the bottom, it's can I say generally, to my mind anyway, when it moves that fast, it's potentially short covering rally.
Yes, yeah.
And it will go back to trend. I'm not saying that's the case now, because it could well be a reversal, but that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah,
from a chart point of view.
Yeah, it absolutely does, mate. It absolutely does. And as I say, I just don't think. I think that the rhetoric. So today, if we're sort of thinking about what we got coming up today, we've already had some of the export data, import data from Australia, which was negative, both of them in negative territory on exports and imports, which again suggest an easing of inflation. So the trade balances were slightly weaker. We've got Lagarde speaking at 12, and she moved the market on Monday. I think that's the only real explanation that I can see, because some of the numbers from Europe this week were pretty poor. So to see the euro rally was not in line with the fundamentals, but because of policy, it is suggesting that the euro, did have some room to travel. The question really is, do we get an inflation figure from Europe which suggests that there's enough easing to hold the central bank back? Because if that happens, I think the euro just tanks again.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the Aussie is a very good choice to trade it against, trade it short against, because, as you said, those numbers out of Australia, the trade balance figures out of Australia, are inclusive of China in lockdown. China comes out of lockdown.
Yes.
that changes, and it changes dramatically, in my opinion. So
Yes.
I think Euro Aussie is setting up for a good selling opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think Euro Aussie is a selling opportunity. And as I think, probably Aussie, pound Aussie as well. I think the pound and the euro are the selling options. When you look at the kind of the fundamentals, I think they're the two currencies that look like you just want to be on the short side as soon as you get an opportunity. Right now, this is the euro dollar, so that's in an uptrend. Fair enough. Very good uptrends here as well, and the 4 hours, everything's trending up. There was a little kind of sneak here, but that got swallowed up, and now we're back to the upside. So we need to see a proper signal really from this one, probably on a longer term time frame, rather than the 4 hour. But as soon as that's provided, and the euro breaks down some sort of pattern, then I think we do see some further downside in the euro. It would be better, undoubtedly, if we saw a really, really good rally. Because that would suggest that there's some genuine room to the downside. To see these lows back to parity again, they were aggressively kind of swallowed up, and it's not a particularly comfortable place for the market to be. But I think if we could get back down to, like, I don't know, maybe the 102 level or something, then the market might be more comfortable. But that would need a rally. That would need a decent move to the upside. This looks like the obvious area. And we're not that far away from there. So that's going to lead us to around about the 107 level before we see a potential dip down. But there's just not a lot. In actual fact, it's probably a little bit higher. Looks like it could be there. So yeah, looks like around about maybe 1.8, 110 on the euro before we see some downside. But I think that there could be some downside, and it could be another decent move down as well. And as you say, against the Aussie would look pretty good. What would that be, Euro Aussie?
I'll show you, if you can put up the chart. There's a compelling evidence to suggest that there's some downside coming on the back of, surprise, surprise, a broadening pattern.
Yes, there is a broadening pattern here. There's also this inverted head and shoulders kind of going on, and we're very close to the neckline, and suggesting that the right shoulder would take a little while more to form, because this left shoulder did take actually nearly a month to form. So we're nowhere near that. Looks like we're really headed for the neckline, and then maybe coming down. So that would lead us to
put the high of that broadening pattern in, and you'll see that we're pretty much bang on that confluence area. Yeah,
we are. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons I'm keen to be very, very watchful of this pair.
Yeah, I see that. What do we got? I mean, look at the price action. It's just, I think because we are sort of like, we are in these ranges right now. I mean, this is a short right now. I would suspect decent buy yesterday would also suggest that we are probably at the top of the range. Not a lot. We'd probably want to wait for Lagarde. Lagarde's out of 12. So after midday UK time, which is in about 4 hours, 3.5 hours, we would probably want to see some kind of indication that the price action is starting to fail. And if that was the case, then I think we could well be looking for some downside on this one. And
I'll give you my account number. You can trade it while I'm asleep for me.
Yeah, it looks pretty good, mate. I mean, I don't know. Difficult one to measure, though. Let's see if we can get a slightly better picture. Oh, there we go. We got a head and shoulders here. Okay, so this would be the measured move on it, and it leads us down to these lows here, this high here. So I think if we can break through this zone, retest, it looks like a test of this point here. So yeah, Euro Aussie looks like the short opportunity today, and it might be the Euro CAD as well. In actual fact, we might see the Euro weaken after Lagarde speaks, and I wonder what she can say today to change the dynamic, because we've already seen a rally in the euro off what she said already. So is she likely to come out and say, something more hawkish than she's already been? I would doubt it. So I think we're probably waiting for that speech.
Was that yesterday she spoke?
She spoke on Monday. I mean, there's been a few things going on all
week.
Okay,
that big rally on Monday. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there was Lane as well spoke on Monday. So there was a few things that went on Monday that got the euro to have a bit of a boost. Pretty much right across the board. You see the euro here against the CAD as well. Not looking so good against the CAD for downside. I wouldn't trust anything against the pound right now. What is it against the yen? I quite like the yen, perversely, I quite liked the yen for some upside. The Sing doesn't look great. Yeah, the euro looks the euro Aussie looks the best. Let's have a look at the euro dollar as well.
Well, I've got euro yen short ready to trigger.
Yeah, I would go with that as well, mate. This I mean, a lot of them just look a bit too scruffy, but this is the cleanest. The euro Aussie looks the cleanest because of that head and shoulders. I mean, this is, you look at that on an hour, it's pretty clean. That's a lovely little distribution pattern going on here, and it would suggest.
I'm very keen on it.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to. And you got that. I mean, this is, anybody sort of like wants to know what a head and shoulders pattern looks like. In one bar. This is it. This is it. When you see this bar here, you will see a head and shoulders, and on a shorter term time frame. So the pattern looks like it's in existence, and as you say, mate, we're already on sort of longer term resistance.
Resistance. Yep.
Yeah, on a longer term resistance. So Euro Aussie would be my sort of pick of the day as well. But I think the key for me is that I don't really have a lot. I've taken the long on silver because I like this bar as well, and I like the way that kind of silver's looking. But to be fair, I have hedged it out with a short on gold because I'm not 100%. Keen on a silver long, so I'm hedging out a bit of the risk on a short on gold. But I quite like the silver, and what you said, I didn't know that about China. But if that's the case, that we see China reopen, then we're going to see some of these industrial metals do pretty well. It'd be interesting to see what copper's doing as well. Actually, let's have a quick look.
I actually only just heard that on the nightly news here, my local nightly news. So I don't know how relevant it is, how true it is, but if it is true, then I definitely see upside for the Aussie.
Yeah, upside for the Aussie, upside for copper as well would look pretty good. And
but gold, gold's super interesting right now, because I think if 1800 breaks, then I hesitating to say that W word, then I'm potentially wrong for the short term.
Yeah, do you know, mate? I when I look at gold, I just wonder whether we might well be kind of getting into. I mean, I'd still think gold would be a really interesting long if it came down here.
Well, that's what I'm trying to play. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Do you know the only thing with gold? If you look at the COT data, in fact, I'm going to bring up the COT data. If you look at the COT data, and you look at the seasonal aspects for gold, then. And things are supportive. We've got sort of like something which would help it out. The big problem for gold is the ETFs. The ETFs just so far anyway, the reporting has suggested that we haven't yet kind of found ETF buyers. Let me just get rid of this pencil. There we go. So let's have a look at gold. So here's the gold. Here's gold's COT data, and we were seeing really negative for many months. But in the last 3 weeks, big pop up big pop up in the buying 3 weeks ago, and last week, okay, it's drifting a little bit, but it's still pretty good. And you compare that with silver as well. Silver's been buying for the last month. They've been interested in buying silver, but when you consider it's been languishing in the lower regions for most of the year, the interest is definitely starting to build again for gold and silver. So the COT data is good for gold and silver, and it is suggesting that the bigger players are starting to come in. Now the fundamentals, to me, would suggest that inflation high, yields coming down, i.e. the US pausing or at least slowing interest rates, gold long. So those things start to match up. If those ETF traders start to come in, I would suspect it's going to fly. The problem is, if you wait for that number, which I don't think is going to be reported until actually sometime this week, it might be. But if you wait for the number of the ETFs to see what they were doing last month, then it might have gone already.
It's too late. Yeah,
it could be too late. So you're kind of anticipating the move with gold. But what I would suggest is that even if gold does weaken, as long as the COT data remains positive and we start to see those bigger names or the speculators, continue to buy gold up, I still think that gold is going higher. And I get your double top theory, but the what's going on under the hood is starting to suggest that may not play out. I
agree with that. There's a definite dichotomy between what the chart's saying and what I'll even call it common sense is saying. Common sense says that gold has to rally. Yeah. It really does at the end of the day. And if you look at, it's not just retailers or retail traders. Central banks are buying up gold like no tomorrow.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while though, and even and this is the thing. This is when you sort of think about drivers, because the problem is, and this is the problem with all drivers, is that you read something, you think that's the one, so you end up kind of buying off the back of that because they've been buying gold for a long time, and gold has still continued to ease down. So you're really waiting for what is it that is the driver? What's the real driver? I suppose maybe the foundations are that central banks have been buying gold. Maybe that's the foundation. Maybe when we look at the foundations, the ETFs need to come in, for that to put the last kind of like block on, and then we see a long move with gold. Gold going up for another year or so for the whole of 2023. But
it can go a long way before it takes out the big, what I call the big boss, which is still the double top. It's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Before it takes that out. So, that's still entirely possible.
Yeah. So that's going to be
in both a fundamental, logistical, common sense, and even a chart point of view, it can still produce a lower high in 2025.
Yes, it could, mate. You're absolutely right. And this is the question, really, isn't it? If we're looking at 2023, what's the trade? This year, it was the dollar. I mean, we need to start talking about this, don't we? Because, if we'd had this discussion last year in some detail, which we didn't have, to be fair, then maybe we would have churned out the dollar. I don't know. But what's the story this year? What's the story in 2023? Because if China opens up again, and central banks can't get inflation under control, it would suggest that both industrial metals and gold, which we wouldn't call an industrial metal, but a precious metal, is going to do pretty well. The stock market might kind of float around. We don't know where that's going. Who knows where the Nasdaq's going over the course of the next 12 months. It should come back and test this COVID high, pre-COVID high, as should the S&P. But again, it could float around. It could come down, test it in January, then start floating around again. I don't think it's taken off to the upside. So what's next year's story? Probably not the euro. I mean, which currency is going to be the one? Maybe the yen. I don't know. But if we're prepared, or at least attempt to get prepared for it and try and get together a thesis, then we might be in pretty good shape next year. Because if you traded the dollar all year last year, you would have been sound. Forget everything else. Just trade the dollar.
But like everything else, it's not going to keep going. We keep saying that. And, it has come off, there's no doubt. Whether it can go through those highs again and seek the ultimate high is another story. But, I think, ironically, in many ways, the story will be resources and renewables. Both sides of the coin, and that seems to be, how can that be? If one's going to be strong, the other should be weak. Because, if you're mining coal, for instance, right?
Yeah.
And the whole green world is saying, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. How can they both rally? How can they both be
Well,
strong?
I mean,
But
I don't
that's
know.
what I'm seeing.
There may well be a case for it, mate, which would push you towards it would push you towards the Aussie.
Yeah,
And also,
100%.
the likes of Shell and BP are investing in renewables, so they are making their own transition. So even though, as a company, these companies could still do very, very well. You might see the likes of Rio Tinto. You might see sort of companies that, well, maybe Rio Tinto wouldn't be a good example actually, but energy companies that are not metal companies, but energy, not mining companies, but energy companies that are in a place like Australia may well say, you know what, we're going to build wind farms here. So that there might well be still some argument to say that those countries will still do well if they can front run, if they can beat everybody else in making the transition. Because Australia's going to have to, I would suspect, is going to have to kind of start moving over to more green energy relatively soon, as is Canada.
Either that or nuclear, one of the two.
Or nuclear, yeah, that's another option, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, did I mention uranium?
Well, yeah, I keep reading about uranium stocks. I haven't got involved in any of those, but I keep reading about those recently.
Actually, the Australian market's just released an ETF that includes, it's called Global X Management, ticker ATOM. I don't know if you guys have got access to that. Just been released in the last couple of days, right. Which I'm interested in. It's around about $10 or something, under $10. So that includes, big companies like BHP, but little uranium mining companies as well that I think I've mentioned in the past. So I'm extremely interested in that. It gives you a broad access to that sector.
Right.
But I don't know if you have to be in Australia to actually invest
possibly.
in that.
I have seen a few bits and pieces here, but I haven't looked at it. Sorry, mate, I got distracted because I was just mentioning about the ETF release, and it's been released today. I've just opened it up. Global Gold ETF net outflows slowed in November, so the outflows are dwindling a little bit. We are still seeing the outflows happen, but they are dwindling. So that could well signal some upside in gold. 7th consecutive month of outflows, but they are slowing. So I guess things slow before they turn around.
Normally, that's the case, which is going back to my point on the euro, for instance, where you've seen really no great slowdown until it reversed, because it was still trending fairly rapidly. Yeah. And then it's reversed very, very quickly. So, to me, that does look like a short covering rally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we've got there's quite a lot of positivity actually. So it looks like, actually, let me just check the central bank numbers as well. So central banks, East Asia are very keen. So gold continue to be viewed favorably by central banks as a reserve asset. 25% of reserves intend to increase their gold reserves in the next 12 months. So central banks are continuing to buy, and looks like they're going to be buying right for the next 12 months. So central banks are certainly interested, mate, and those people that were looking at Bitcoin versus gold as a potential way to protect your wealth. It looks like gold is currently winning that particular battle, and it may well sort of see 2023 as a decent year. And as I say, mate, if we got central banks buying, we've got the COT data staying positive. Those ETFs are starting to just reduce those outflows. If that turns positive, I think gold goes. And yes, okay, we do need to see a 15% rally back up to the highs, but I think it could happen, mate. I think 2023 is all about gold and silver.
I agree. If 1800 doesn't hold as resistance, then let me call it. Where'd it go to? 2015 or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
Let me say 2013.9, because that means it won't take out the highs.
2074 would be on the trend line currently, but this high here is at 2088 on the futures.
Right, what's that low? The first lower high, that big reversal bar there
This one,
after
or
the
this
double top. Yeah, that one. What's the high of that?
The high of this bar is around about the 2000 mark.
There you go, 2000. If 1800 breaks, it's going to 2000.
Yeah, I think you're right, but it does look good down.
Then I'm a seller again.
Yeah, I'm liking
but
it.
At the moment, I'm still a seller, so we'll see.
Yeah, you're a seller. I'm going to go on the flip of that. I'm going to be a buyer, but maybe not quite at these levels. But I don't know. I'll continue to use it as a hedge against silver, and
in reality, at this level, you can see go back to the middle of the double top, how long it hung around 1800.
Yeah,
forever. So we could be back. We could be back there.
Well, do you know the best place to me, the price, the line in the sand I see with gold is this one here. This just looks like a cracking area. I know it's a little bit messy, but you can see the support here, and the support here. The resistance there, and that looks like the price. And the reason that I would love that price is because it would then have to create.
Gives you a beautiful right shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah. So 1700 is the area for me. That's where I would be all over it, I think, and I'd probably be all over it. And I might, if it was to work out, then I would be done for the year, and you wouldn't see me next year.
1700 to 2000. That's a pretty good result.
Oh wow, that now we're starting to talk. Yeah, 1700 to 2000 will be something.
I wonder why I'm stopping talking about 1200.
You have stopped talking about 1200.
That worries me.
Well, do you know, mate, this is a pretty good rally. That's a pretty good rally from the lows there. Back up to that point. So I'm not really that surprised that you've stopped talking about it. I mean,
I don't know if it's on the back of that. I think it's more on the back of I've thought long and hard about this, and from a, as I say, logical or common sense point of view, it doesn't make sense that support level will be broken again anytime soon. Yeah. Not saying it ever, but it just doesn't make it. There's nothing apart from the chart pattern that suggests that that's going to break again.
No,
I mean that's a false break, a clear false break. It's telling us that the chart's saying, yeah, that's a clear false break.
Yeah,
and it's happened 1, 2, 3, 4 times before.
I mean, it's interesting when you look at the monthly. It does kind of the picture changes again, because the monthly does look like a lower high. A lower low, lower high here. That looks like a lower low, lower high.
Well, I'm still short, so
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Like I think we're right at the inflection point now. 1800 is the number.
Yeah,
and I think we'll know by this time next week, because of all of that news next week. My goodness me, we've got 4 central banks. We've got the ECB, BOE, Fed, and who else is one other? Oh, Swiss. SMB, they're all reporting next week.
Right.
On the same day. Wow, that could be a roller coaster.
Yeah, it could well be a roller coaster. Look at the confluence here as well, mate. It's just it does.
Yeah, that's my target.
It would be perfect. Look at that. That's the 15th of January. So on the 15th, that's going to be my call. Gold is a buy on the 15th of January.
Okay. Is that a Trading Buddies Day?
15th of January. Let's have a look. Yes, it is.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, it is. Okay. So gold long, 15th of January. When we were in Bali, we had this Astronarchi guy come in and sort of talk about gold and how it moves with the moon. And he made a prediction, and I can't remember what his prediction was. If anybody in the room can remember,
I've got a mate who does similar stuff. He calls it time by degrees, and it's all based on, I'm not sure if it's tides or the phase of the moon or what it is.
Yeah,
But he
it's
does it
really
very
interesting stuff, mate.
he does
It's
it
really
very
interesting stuff.
successfully.
I'm gonna use a less scientific and much more coarse method and say that I'm just gonna use trend lines and and support and resistance, and I'm gonna say the second week in January is the time to buy gold. Can I be as
Perfect.
broad as that? Do I have to go 15? I'm gonna go 15th.
Yeah, you'll have to, because you've already said it.
Yeah, I've said it now. All right.
It's
Yeah,
already done.
that's my prediction.
All right, perfect. In the meantime, what's sweet on these? Today and tomorrow is the full moon. We can just sit back for gold to retrace. I think mid next week will be good to long Christmas rally. That's also the 15th, isn't it? Where
Next week,
gold.
no, I'm saying the 15th of January.
You understand that, but when's Ainsley trade gold?
When's what? Sorry.
Christmas Day or some bloody thing, isn't it? She
What
sits
is?
up all Christmas Eve.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
Ah, that's my mates in the room. G'day, Phil. He's on YouTube actually.
He's on YouTube.
She already started last week.
Cool. Okay.
That's the mate I was just talking about.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
Who
Phil,
trades the thing?
Phil, when's it going to, how's the 15th sound to you?
When's the time by degrees, Phil? He'll punch that in there. I think there was one the other day he was telling me about. Actually, I was going to... No, I can't do that on air. I would not do that on air. I'll get into trouble. What's new? What's new, everyone says. What's the time? 51. I better go through these things I'm looking at whilst that's all coming into play, do you think?
Yeah, you do that, mate. I'll be back in 2 shakes.
All right, happy days. So I didn't mention a whole heap of stuff that I'm actually looking at the moment, but it's kind of a super Thursday for me. We have got been through Aussie, been through everything. I haven't been through Kiwi CAD, though I told you what I'm looking for. This just cannot continue, right? It's not possible for this to continue. And I'm so looking for a sell here. I've just got to find one. I'm not a scalper, so I can't just go, okay, now's the time, put my stop loss up here. But look at that. It's just vertical. And charts don't do that. Even this pair, you look every single time that's happened before. You won't find too many. There's one here. But eventually it'll have to top out. Just got to find that level and the time that it does it. So keep your eye on Kiwi CAD. It will at some stage retrace. Just got to find it. But that's not now, right? Euro Aussie was spoken about, but let me go through that broadening pattern and why I think this is setting up for an amazing opportunity. Because of that level there, rarely do I see a confluence as clear. In terms of a horizontal level, it doesn't seem that good. But if you go out to the monthly time frame, you can see that it has rejected price in the past. It's had a little bit of flirt with it there, a little bit of a flirt with it there, but really bounced here, really bounced here, really bounced here. And you've now got the trade line. You've now got the broadening price pattern that I speak of often. You've also got, let's call it big boss territory. Big boss, to my mind, and people argue till the cows come home with me, but that's a double top for mine. So the market, in my humble opinion, is under pressure. This is a massive head and shoulders. We've broken through the neckline of that. We're retesting the neckline of that. This is seriously, it's a sell all day. Time by degrees. Whoa, is the 15th of January. Thanks, Phil. I'll run that past Ash in a minute. So I can only see a sell here. It's in trend. You're getting lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. I'm just can't wait to get a setup for this, frankly. And like we spoke about before, did you hear that, Ash?
I did. It's almost like I've paid him to come on.
That's what he's
Thanks,
telling
Phil.
me.
15th of
15th
January.
works.
I mean, you have to explain the time by degrees thing to me, but
It's the position of the sun. There you go.
I'm
He's
loving it.
telling us.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to put in an order. Then I'm going to tell everybody that all the brokers. I don't care what account. Every account I've got, buy me gold on the 15th of January. I don't care the price. No, I want it at 17. I want it at 1700. It's got to be down there.
I've got to find a way in Euro. The more I look at it, the more compelling it is. It's just absolutely set, ready to go. Look at that big head and shoulders there, Ash. Neckline break, retest at a confluence area. How can it not be a sell? Lower low,
I totally
lower
agree,
high,
mate. Because you know
lower
what,
low,
I look at that.
lower high.
Even as an inverted head and shoulders, it's got to come back. Even if the bulls are sort of thinking, okay, inverted head and shoulders, that's got to come back. So yeah, it's right on the neckline. I totally agree with you, mate. I'm short on the Aussie. I just think that we need to wait until Christine Lagarde has spoken. So far, I don't see any anticipation about that speech. And I don't know what she's going to say. I haven't got a clue what she's due to say either, but it doesn't look like there's any anticipation of selling into that speech. But I think we wait for that speech. And as soon as she's spoken, look for sell signals.
Okay, I'm going to go through what we were looking at early in the week. And probably in my group more than in here. But we're looking for Aussie Swissy to come back into the range. I think this is another potential. You can see how it bottomed. That's the bottom of the range there. If you can't see the range, it's pretty clear. There's a box range in here. And it has now put in a re-entry into that range. All I'm looking for here is a higher low. And it may have turned up there, but it's a maybe, because look at that candle. It's a shocker. You can't trade that candle, in my humble opinion. So I'm waiting for something a little bit more definitive than that. There's a big morning star. Is that a morning star for you, Ash?
Yeah, definitely. And a beauty, isn't it?
Yep. And all I'm waiting for is a signal to go long here on Aussie Swiss. I'm so Aussie centric at the moment. It seems it's a bias based on my nationality, but it's not the case. That's what I'm seeing. Aussie versus the yen.
Tell you, mate, I have to say, I think the Swiss is a pretty interesting currency right now, and because it is so, it's pretty robust. Switzerland's just relatively robust, and I think you'd need to see Aussie rally, and if the Aussie rallies against the Swissy, it's probably going up against everything.
Everything, yeah. Well, you can see this very clear. Well, maybe you can't. So I always say it's clear, but it's clear to me. It's not necessarily clear to everyone else. So let me point out what's actually occurring here in terms of a chart pattern. That couldn't be any clearer for me. You're coming off a double bullish engulfing bar, higher high, higher low. This is a fail here, which is a little bit of a concern. So that turned out to be a false break, only went to the bottom of the range. Same here, came off the resistance, went to the bottom of the range, rejected it. So I'm just waiting now, and the weekly pivot's holding strong here. I'm just waiting now for this level to break. And as soon as it does, we're up here, I think.
Where you've got that circle, the higher high.
Yep.
Could you bring a trend line down from that high down to the cross?
Sure. Hang on, I'll get rid of all that.
Yeah.
Break and retest.
If that holds, mate, I mean that would be an anticipationary move. I mean, obviously that the weekly pivot's problematic, but that does look pretty good. Stops at the on that hammer on the low test bar.
I actually like that.
Yeah,
that looks good to me.
That's the Aussie yen, mate.
That is. Okay, I hadn't considered that.
I'm going to have a look.
Interesting. Okay, but I mean that's my bias, and that's what I've been looking for, and that potentially is the one that sends it. We could be onto something there as well.
Oh, I'm really liking that.
What else did I have for you? Swissy and no, Euro Aussie we've spoken about. Euro Swissy, Euro Yen we've spoken about. All the pound pairs, I'm not really that interested in the pound pairs. But earlier in the week, we were talking about three things: Euro Kiwi, Pound Aussie, Pound Kiwi. Let's have a look at them. So Euro Aussie at the beginning of the week with our game changer bars. Sorry, it was Euro Kiwi, not Euro Aussie. I've got it on my brain now. Euro Kiwi on the weekly was telling us to sell it. And this is even better because there's an inside bar forming. So if we get that next week and this low's not taken out and the high's not taken out, then I will look to trade that short underneath that bar. I'd like to see a bigger retracement, to be honest, but that's compelling for me, especially if it is a green body. You can get your entry down here, your stop loss here, and I think that'll be a good one. That was not triggered, well, not yet anyway. Pound Aussie was the next one. And the weekly chart suggesting that we go long. Too dangerous to go long there for me, so I didn't. But it does give you a bias to the upside. And this does look strong, to be honest, completely against my bias. But then I put in my broadening pattern and we're at a resistance area. You can pull that from anywhere, I suppose. So I can totally see this coming back again. So that bar there this week's interesting thus far. That would have triggered. So if you hadn't taken profit there, I would be a little bit concerned about that one. And the other one was Pound Kiwi. Pound Kiwi was suggesting that we go short. Again, hasn't triggered. Again, potential inside bar here. Kiwi is just so strong at the moment, and I'm not sure 100% sure why, but it is, and that could well result in some more downside next week as an inside bar. So that's bringing you up to date with the weekly game changes. I don't really have anything else except to go to the euro and see if we can take advantage of this resistance area that we're at, back off it. What's the daily pivot telling me today? It's telling me it's been a very, very popular place to be. I'd be happy to trade that back there if I were to get a false break of resistance. So price up here, maybe find that high, back underneath, retest it, trade down to the bottom. You're not going to get much pips out of it, I don't think, because I don't think this is going anywhere anytime soon. I think we're pretty much going into a range here for a bit. So it's probably not my favourite. Aussie, it's all about the Aussie, Ash, I think.
All about the Aussie, yeah. Can't ever discard the dollar either. Tomorrow we've got core PPI numbers as well, and we've got consumer expectations and Michigan consumer sentiment as well, which is going to be interesting. I mean, one thing about the United States is, as a heavily driven consumer-based economy, it needs those consumers to feel pretty good. So those consumer numbers are predicted to come in actually bang in line, pretty much bang in line with last month. So no dip in expectations. Core PPI potentially easing back to 5.9% from 6.7% if forecast is to be trusted. So there is an anticipation that there could be some reduction of inflation numbers in the United States, which makes a lot of sense. I read the ISM, and the ISM, in all intents and purposes, I mean, there was some negativity in there, but quite a lot of respondents were suggesting that supply chain issues were easing. So I don't know how much they were easing, in as much that, do you go from 7.5% right down to 2% in a couple of months? Unlikely. But if those supply chain issues are easing somewhat, then it does suggest that inflation could ease back down. Maybe the 5% mark looks around about right, which is too high. But it does suggest that there might be some easing of policy, because remember, the central bank's policy takes around about a year to filter through to the economy. So they would be quite keen, if they saw those numbers easing back, I think, to say, okay, well, let's see if we've done enough. I don't think they have, but if they state that, let's see if we've done enough, then the market should react in selling off the dollar further, probably. So got to watch for these numbers. But as I say, mate, inflation data tomorrow is going to be relatively important for some short-term moves. But next week, as you point out, is the big one.
Next week's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Where have I got that chart? Somewhere here I've got it, but I don't know where. I want a quick look at that before. Is it not? Yeah, beyond that. There. Next Thursday is massive. Look at that. Look at the week.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah, it's massive.
What, mate, you are ahead of me. I didn't know there was a rate decision next week.
Yeah, well, you've got, it's not just rate decisions. You've got inflation data out of the States.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got inflation data out of your neck of the woods.
11%, yeah, yeah.
You've got the Fed. You've got employment numbers from Aussie. You've got the Swiss National Bank with their policy rate. You've got the BOE with its policy rate. And you've got the ECB with its policy. It's massive. Absolutely massive.
Yeah, yeah, which is why we're seeing all this jostling around. I don't think you'd want to be in the market.
I'd love to be free trading in the market. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, if you can pick it, mate. I mean, you know, what's the choice though? I mean, what have you got? Gold.
Euro short. Euro short.
Euro short. Okay.
Well, I mean, you said it from the outset. If you short the euro and the pound, come Thursday, and you've got some money in the bank. Yeah, I think you got a good shot.
You got a good shout. I wouldn't go against the dollar though.
I'm not suggesting that. But pound Aussie short, euro Aussie short.
Oh, I'll be up for that.
Yeah,
yeah, I'd be okay with that. I'd be all right with some Aussie. I wouldn't want to touch the dollar, and I probably wouldn't want to touch the CAD either.
The CAD's got to rally again. Scottish oil, I reckon. Well, oil's keeping that. It's got a bit of a lid on it because of oil, I think. Yeah,
not so good, is it? The situation with oil, and we see that easing back. Where's that now? Near that $70 per barrel that Biden has suggested that they will be refilling stocks.
Where does it become a buy?
It's got to be pretty close. Got to be $70 a barrel. I mean, geez, if you've got a buyer there. I mean, he's already told you that.
Oh, is he?
Where's 70? That's 70, is it? He's already told you that there's a big buyer. I mean, whether they do what they say they're going to do, obviously, is the other question. But I reckon people will be buying there just because he said that that's the price that he's going to pay. So
Absolutely.
there's a buyer in the market. So you've already got a demand.
He wouldn't tell porky pies, would he? Joe Biden.
No, they don't.
He's a politician. Everything's 100% right.
But I suppose my point is, mate, does it matter? Because if everybody sort of says that that's the number because that's what he said, whether he does it or not, it doesn't really matter because everybody else will buy it because he said it.
I'll tell you what would turn me against it, and that's a weekly chart, right? And you know what? Every time I see a double top, the very first thing I'm looking for are key reversal bars. And every time I see one, I want to trade it. So there's your first lower high, key reversal bar, sell, rally. Don't know if that's a key reversal bar. It's pretty evil. So I'll call that one maybe not. Key reversal bar, sell, rally, still don't get taken out. Another key reversal bar, sell. What have we got this week? It won't be a key reversal bar. So, interesting. If it does get down to 70, maybe it is a buy.
Okay, do one more thing for me, mate. Put a horizontal line on the closing highs.
Who's closing highs?
Of oil on that weekly.
This week?
Yeah, no, the double top.
Oh, okay.
About there, a bit higher. Bit higher. Get those two tips in. Get those a bit higher there. Bit lower. So the those two little meetings of price. The only time that price actually was the same. I think you're right. Actually, my Zoom is just covering me. Yeah, about there. Yeah, it's a little bit higher. So those
well, that's the
yeah, those
closing
two
high.
highs. Yeah, those two highs. Yeah, if you can meet it on those two highs, I think Zoom might be covering my screen.
I'm not sure which two highs you mean. The only two highs that are equal are the high highs.
The high there. Now put a horizontal line at the lows of that the move of the M topping pattern. Just a bit higher, higher.
Oh, here.
Yeah, a bit higher there, because that's the M topping pattern neckline.
Yep. Okay.
A little bit higher actually. If you go to the closing
retest it.
Yeah, the closing numbers rather than there. Now bring in a vertical line and just measure it.
No, it'll be a trend line, not a vertical
trend line. Sorry, mate. Yeah, trend line. And bring that down. Look at that. Now,
so
that's why
70 bucks.
$70, bang on the nut. And what were your numbers last year? You remember your number thing last year?
Oh my God, no! What was that?
You had something there. What do you reckon, Phil? Is Phil still in the room? Ask Phil if he's got a time thing on oil.
A time by degrees on oil.
Yeah.
When are we saying this is going to be? Actually, I think he's just had the time by degrees the other day. He was telling me.
This is going to be after the Fed. I mean, that's there, isn't it? As soon as it hits $70, that's going up. I mean, that's my prediction. I don't know what day it's going to be.
All right, we all buy oil and fill our cars up the day before. Is that right?
Yeah.
that's the way it works.
Yeah.
I don't know if Phil's still in there. We'll give him a minute or so to tell us if. What was the date of the Fed?
Tomorrow.
It's
next
the 15th.
week,
It's the 15th.
Next Thursday.
It's again the 15th to 12th.
15th. Okay, there's something about the 15th for us. Yeah, it is the 15th. You got it. 2 months in a row when the 15th is a Thursday. That's strange.
Well, it may not be the case. Although, on a cycle of 30 days, then that would be understandable. Yes, I get that.
Oh, yeah. Fair.
I don't know if he's still there.
Well, that's my call. I'm going to go oil long on $70. I'm going to go gold long at 1,700 as long as it's on the 15th of January.
What was I talking about last year? It was oil, was it?
Yeah, you had your sort of numbers on oil. It was brilliant.
It was at the top, was it?
No, you were sort of saying about retracements. I think they always came back to the same number on the retracements.
Right.
The year before.
It may have been that level. Let me have a look. God, I have to look at the recording, mate. I don't remember. The 15th to the 12th, Phil. 15th to the 12th, mate. What was that number? Now you're haunting me now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was oil.
Yeah, I remember. I remember every time it happens back to that number. Yes. Okay. No, I think it was oil.
Yeah.
Or was it?
I've got a feeling it was oil.
Well, it might have been $70, mate.
Well, if it's $70, I'm all over it.
Go and mortgage the house.
Which, incidentally, could be interesting for the CAD.
Yeah, indeed.
So we could see the CAD rally. So maybe Euro CAD short, pound CAD short, and oil long could be the call for next week.
$70. Oh, I think it was every time it went to. No, I'll have to report back on Monday when I remember.
Report back, mate. See if you can have a little search around in the dusty cupboards of your mind.
Yeah, it might need some lubricating. The
Get the whiskey
17th
out.
of this. The 17th of December is a time by degrees, which is a Saturday.
Ooh.
So it may fit. It
All
may
right.
well fit.
Thanks, Phil. We're going to buy oil next Friday then, in anticipation.
My goodness.
Which is good because that's after the Fed. I like that.
I better load up my accounts.
Load them up, mate.
Euro, Aussie short, oil long. What else are we doing?
We're going CAD long against the euro, CAD long against the pound. We're going gold long on the 17th of January.
Right. If they all win, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, for both of you.
Yeah, indeed. All right, we better get out of here. Right?
All right, buddy.
Thanks for your company. Thank you, Phil, for the input on Time by Degrees. And what was that the other name that old matey had?
I think it was called Is it Astronaucci?
Astronaucci.
Fascinating
Right.
stuff, mate. I mean, it went over my head, but it was fascinating stuff.
Don't knock it. Don't knock it. Everything works.
No, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, it worked for the guy. It was working for him. Really, really. It was very positive. But yeah, just it's just so broad and vast, and just sort of another thing to distract me from what I'm doing. So I kind of switched off after a while.
When you think about it, is it any more strange or stranger? Sorry, more stranger. I don't know. I can use either.
Swee understands this stuff. Swee understands this stuff as well. She was saying about it as well. I don't have enough in-depth knowledge of it, really. It's sort of, I'd never even considered it, but Swee understands it too.
There you go. There's a challenge for the 20 from Astronautica.
Yeah.
Something like that. Look, don't knock it. Is it any stranger than putting a line on the chart and saying that this price is going to bounce here?
Absolutely not.
Probably not.
No.
It's just that we're used to doing that.
Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, isn't it, mate? You just you trade what you get used to. You trade what you learn, and you trade what you understand. In the end.
Yeah, one of my mantras through life has been: just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And I'll leave you with that thought.
Like it.
Have a great weekend, mate. Was it? Yeah, it could be.
I don't know. Sounds like a country song.
That's probably where I got it. I got it. No, it's actually mine. That's one of mine.
Oh, it's one
Have
of yours.
a great weekend, mate. And
yeah, you
everyone,
too, buddy.
thanks for being our trading buddies, and we look forward to your company next Monday when we will do it all in. See you later. Bye-bye. Oh, I've got to finish this.